What we're going to start off with, though, is some stats which I found really interesting reading this point. Was that in 2021, 2 years ago, the global military spent a total of 2.1 trillion on war. So for comparative figures, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, ending world hunger is estimated at 265 billion a year, which means that we could have solved world hunger 8 times over if we put the money in the right places. Whereas, as we all know, it was put towards war, 2.1 trillion. So really interesting. But we all know the answer to this, but I'm interested to hear it from you, Stephen. What does this tell you about where our leaders' motives really are at?
Yeah, look, I saw this, I don't know where I saw it, on some news article or somewhere, and or someone might have texted it to me. And then I went digging and I went, holy shit, yeah, these are OECD numbers. These are lefty leading idiot numbers. So and that's the one good thing about these lefty idiots is they don't lie to you. They put it all out there. You've just got to go and find it. So it's, 2.1 trillion. So Australia's 2 times Australia's economy every year gets spent on war. And if you think about that, so America's just spent $280 billion on aid into Ukraine. $280 billion. So just them alone spent more money on armaments than what world hunger could be believed. And the world hunger figure, from what I could find from the UN World Food Programme, is actually just feeding people. It's not actually building infrastructure so that they can become sustainable. And to build the infrastructure for sustainability was something like 1 trillion, right? So even still, every year we spend 2 times what it would cost to put the infrastructure in to reduce world hunger. And what that tells you is there's no profit in hunger, right? There's no profit in trying to make everyone equal. So all this stuff about, we've got to save the children in the third world, we've got to save the animal, we've got to do this, we've got to make everyone, better, is all bullshit, because there's no profit in it, right? The profit is in war. Governments can't hide behind fixing up their country. What we said before about, what would it take to make Australia the most attractive country in the world for everyone to come and invest in, is to fix all the little problems. Make sure we don't have a big homeless population, which is highly visible here in Victoria, and especially here in Melbourne. And, have reliable energy and have all this sort of stuff, because that's what fixes hunger, right? The people don't have something to eat, not because it's not available. Most of it's sitting in warehouses, and the dictators are keeping it for their armies, right? It's having a sustainable energy supply, sanitation projects, right? So it's the underlying infrastructure that's needed to drag these people up. And it's a quick, easy win for people to support Ukraine, throwing money at Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Raytheon and Thales and all these big defence contractors, Nevada out of Italy, and Leonardo and all these sort of guys that are massive defence contractors, because they support the politicians to get them back into power. A hungry kid in Africa, he doesn't support a politician to get into power. And if we did bring him up so he could vote on that, he might vote the wrong way. Right. So, they're not going to do anything about it. And that's the saddest part. Just that one stat that there, when you actually go digging, it just goes to show you where humanity sits at the moment. Well, there is nothing.
It shows you where our leaders' main intentions and focuses are.
Yeah. War is a simpler and easier way to cover their sins than actually trying to do good for the world.
And like you said, it's got the biggest profit margin, and everyone knows, especially over COVID too, there were plenty of profits made when there's crisis on hand. So we all know why it's happening.
Yeah.
But while we're on the topic of war, we actually had another point, and I thought I'd ask them together. But interestingly enough, China has begun selling US treasuries and then also buying gold. So what's the logic behind this, and why the Chinese government actually starting to do it?
So it's not just China. So China's the main one doing it, but it's also Russia, India, all the BRICS nations, Brazil, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and the likes. They're all ditching US treasuries. And the reason that you ditch US treasuries and buy something that can't be, held over you, some of the countries are buying large quantities of, say, copper and tin in raw materials. Oil, for instance, is being bought as well in place of treasuries. And that's because what I said before, when people know war's coming, the money flows to hoarding, right? So you start hoarding food, you start hoarding cash, you start hoarding gold and silver and copper and zinc and everything else that's needed when you come out of the other end. That will you'll be able to use to keep stuff going, to rebuild and all that, or to sustain you going through a war period. So we're seeing this happen now, and you probably always heard me say many times that room service just went past. I'm sitting in a conference center, by the way, because the internet is a bit dodgy in my room. And the girl just bought someone's room service. I should have just tackled her and had it.
You should have just stolen it from her.
Should have just stolen it. Yeah, that seems to be the thing you do in Victoria. You just take everyone else's and redistribute. That's the communist way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've probably heard me to say that the smart money and the money in the know moves into real assets and into real essential assets before a major move in an economy or before a major war. If you have a look at what was happening pre-World War II and pre-World War I, the US were doing the same thing. The US was ditching German and Eastern European treasuries and bonds and all that sort of stuff, and buying oil and buying gold and aluminium and copper and zinc and tar and flax and what was the other, canvas. The US were buying a lot of that and stockpiling and building aircraft and strengthening their military. So these are all the signs that something major is happening. I still believe World War III, in a physical war sense, we will see it fester out of the Ukraine further into Europe. And it'll probably just stay in Europe. It won't go anywhere else. Anyone who's running around the world saying that China is going to invade Australia is, well, whatever it is, I want a kilo or whatever they're smoking. Because why the fuck would China invade Australia when they can, one, buy us, right? But two, you've got Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, and one of the other stans I was reading about the other day that has everything Australia's got, and it's right next door, and they're friendly, right? They're ex-Soviets, and they would side with China over the US and the West in a heartbeat. So they could just go and get the iron ore from over there, the coal from over there, the oil and gas and everything else. They got food, because Kazakhstan has the same agricultural outlook that Australia's got. It's just underdeveloped, and people don't think about it. But when you look at it on the world map, they're right in the middle of three very large population bases. They've got India to the south, China to the east, Russia and Eastern Europe down into the Mediterranean on the western side. So they're in a better spot than we are. So China doesn't need to invade Australia. It just partners up with them and cut Australia off. But why do that when you can suck everything out of what we're doing now and stockpile it?